Hello and welcome to the Curious Cat Bookshop podcast. I am so excited to be talking to you tonight, but I just wanted to let you know that this will be our last episode of the year. Season 1 is ending in December because we've got hopefully, knock on wood, a really good December ahead of us, a good holiday shopping season, and I will be busy in the store with that and with other things. And we'll start again with season 2 in January. And I am hoping that our podcast will be more regular in 2026. I need to plot out our guest schedule. And if you have ideas for who we should invite onto the podcast or what topics you would like me to talk about directly to you, I would love to hear about them in the comments. Today, we're going to be talking about our income streams. And now, a lot of bookstores have multiple income streams because if you just open up a storefront and wait for people to walk in through the door, even with really good marketing, it's not always going to make ends meet just selling books. There are a lot of ways that bookstores handle this depending on what they specialize in, what kind of neighborhood they're in, what kind of demographics their community is. And so I'm going to cover what works for us, or saying that it works for us is saying that it might be profitable for us. And we are not there yet. Gigi has decided to join the party. We are in the middle of year 3 in our brick and mortar. We signed our lease in July of 2023. We opened our doors for a soft launch in August of 23, and we did our grand opening in September of 23. So we've had 2 full years now where we're starting to see some patterns of what's working and what's not, but we're still also, I've got a 5-year plan to profitability and still figuring out whether that plan, what parts of the plan are holding up and what are not. Tonight, what I'd love for us to talk about is what percentage of our income is books, what percentage of our income is sidelines, and how the rest of the pie fits together so that we are working toward, if not actually arriving at yet, profitability. If you don't know me, if you're just catching this episode and haven't seen the rest of our podcast, I'm Stacy Whitman, and I'm the owner of the Curious Cat Bookshop in Winsted, Connecticut. I've been working in children's book publishing for about 22 years now, and I was the publisher of 2 books, the middle grade and YA imprint of Lee and Low Books, which is the largest publisher of diverse books for children and young adults in the United States. Stepped down from being publisher in late 2024, and for the last year I had been working part-time as an editor at large, and now I run my bookstore and I freelance edit, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. And just in general, here on the podcast we talk about the entire life of the book. We'll talk about books all the way from the writing process and through the publication process into how books get into bookstores and how a bookstore is run. So that's what we do here on the Curious Cat Bookshop podcast, and I do hope that you'll join us for season 2, which I hope will be even better than season 1, because this has been a growing process. It's been a lot to learn how to podcast, learn how to do videos. I resisted video for a very long time and trained as a photographer, a still photographer. I did weddings and engagement shots for friends in college, and I've worked at trade magazines as both a photographer and editor and writer. So before I got into children's literature, I had an entirely other life in magazine journalism and wedding photography. Video scared me, to be quite honest. So I hope that these videos that I've been doing, explaining everything we do in a bookstore and interviewing various authors about their process and about publication and working with editors, has been enlightening to you, and that you'll share this with a friend over the holidays, and maybe they'll join us next year in 2026 to learn even more. So what do I mean when I talk about income for a bookstore? What I'm talking about is top line revenue. I'm not talking about profits. We can talk about profitability next year if you like. I think I've mentioned here before that if you are doing really well, if you are the most profitable of all bookstores, the profit margin still runs somewhere around 5%. This is not an industry to get rich in. However, it is such a fulfilling industry, whether you're talking about the publishing industry, writing, or bookstores. The thing that I love most, no matter where I have worked in the book industry in the last 25 years, has been that I meet so many interesting and welcoming and good people who want to make their community better. Whether that's providing kids with great literature, whether that's bringing the community together for a book club or a craft night, or really anything. The book community for me has mostly always been such a supportive community to be a part of. And so while I'm talking about percentages and numbers because it's interesting and I want people to go in with eyes wide open if they're thinking about, oh, someday I'm going to retire and run a bookstore. We've talked about that before. I also want to make sure that you understand that we generally go into this for the love and not the money. I hope to be able to pay for my house and my food and my electricity and that awful oil bill this winter with my earnings from the bookstore. We're not there yet. But other bookstores are, and I know that there are owners and booksellers who are making modest livings in this business. So I just want to make sure that you understand that I am never going to be talking about get rich quick schemes in publishing or in books. Hi, Gigi. We can talk about how not to get scammed, and I have plans for that in the new year to talk with writers about how to approach publishing in a way that they avoid the worst of the scammers out there, because there are a lot of them. Hi, Gigi. But I'm getting on a tangent here. So what I'd really love to do is dive into actual percentages and talk about how we bring it all together and how I'm not quite there yet with getting all the pieces of the puzzle together, but I'm working on it. We've talked before about how a bookstore can't only sell books. You might try, but one of the fun things about being a bookstore customer is that even if you walk in and you're in the mood for a new book, but maybe you're not quite finding what you're looking for, but you just love being in a bookstore, you could buy a bookmark or a sticker or a journal and walk away feeling like you've had that bookstore experience, that you're expressing your bookish identity in some way and connecting with your bookish community. So sidelines, I think I've covered this before, but in case you don't know, sidelines are everything that we sell in a bookstore that is not a book. That might be stickers or magnets or bookmarks or tote bags, those little pouches that you might put your pencil in, book lights, book stands, gift bags, cards, journals, mugs. Speaking of mugs, we're doing a membership campaign right now in December through the beginning of January. So if you would like to support us as a member, even subscribe to our book box, we would love that. Follow the links on our website, curiouscatbookshop.com, to become a member, and you'll see all about it. And you could get a free t-shirt with art from the walls of our store. Why I'm pausing and telling you about mugs is because we now also have mugs in our bonfire store. So if you go to our website, curiouscatbookshop.com, and click on Get a Curious Cat t-shirt, you can go to our bonfire store, and not only are there t-shirts and sweatshirts and aprons and all sorts of fun stuff like that, but we now have Curious Cat Bookshop mugs, including art from Sheila Smallwood that is currently on our walls. We have these giant paintings on our walls of cats wearing glasses, reading books. They delight me so much, and I would love if you would take a look if you're interested in supporting us and want a fun t-shirt or a gift. The current bonfire campaign ends on December 6th or 7th, but that is so that they will be printed and shipped in time for the holidays, for holiday gifting if you want to give one. But if you're seeing this after that, you can still go to it. And if you'd like to buy a mug or a t-shirt or an apron, usually what happens is they go in 3-week cycles. They open a campaign for 3 weeks. And at the end of the 3 weeks, however many people have ordered something from that campaign, they print it and they ship it out. Anyway, so mugs are another kind of sideline that we might have in the store or online. And more sidelines are things like calendars and bookish advent calendars. That's really big right now. Note cards, pens, pencils, prints like the cat prints that we have of the cats on the wall. We have prints also available. Enamel pins and buttons, bookish socks, stuffies, especially book related. We love having stuffies and toys in the store that are related to books because that enriches, for kids, that enriches the experience of their favorite books. Sidelines might include puzzles or activity books, games for adults and for kids, coasters, tarot cards, wrapping paper, and even novelty soap. If you saw my short from a couple of weeks ago, we have this amazing soap, Star Trek The Next Generation soap. Captain Picard is on the front of it, and the name of the soap is Make It Soap. I love it so much. And we have other kinds of novelty soaps that are great for, you know, the guest bathroom, that kind of thing. Gigi is going to help me, I hope, but she's got to make room for the graph drawing. Are you going to let me? Yeah, you don't like the smell of this. Yeah, it's awful. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now that you know what a sideline is, let's look at how that breaks down for sales in store for us. And these numbers might be very different depending on what store you're talking about. But for us, we've got a pie chart so big. This is just in the store, not online sales. About 18% of all in-store sales are sidelines. That little slice of the pie, 18% is sidelines, and in-store sales, not counting the other things we're going to be talking about. And so what that means is that of in-store product sales, the other 82%-ish, that 82% is going to be book sales. However, we're just talking about product sales. And when we look at the full picture of the store, all of our income is not product sales. What's really an interesting thing, and the way that we are trying to make ourselves more profitable, because as we've spoken about before, the product cost of goods for books and for sidelines can vary between 50 to 60%. Sidelines tend to be closer to 50%. Books tend to be closer to 55 to 60%. So this pie here is part of a bigger pie, and that is a terrible circle, but you're just going to have to deal with it. So this pie of books and sidelines is part of a bigger pie where in-store sales of products is about 86%. So we've got 86% of this pie. Terrible pie graphs aside, about 86% of our total income is this pie, our in-store sales of product. That includes 82% of that is book sales and 18% of that is sidelines. So let's say that this little slice of this bigger pie is maybe those sidelines, and then this is going to be books. Okay, so what does this look like? This tiny little slice of about 14% of the rest of our income. An income that I'd like to grow a little bit larger, because the more we can make this grow, the more profitable we can be, because the profit margin on this little slice is a little bit better for us. So what that breaks down to is about 3% total of the entire total of our income. Now, remember, I cannot draw correct percentages, but that's about 3. Wow, I can't draw at all. That 3% is our affiliate income. What is affiliate income? Affiliate income is Libro.fm, that's audiobooks. Affiliate income also includes bookshop.org, which is basically an Amazon alternative. And if you are watching us from elsewhere in the United States or in Canada, you should be able to support us using bookshop.org just as easily as ordering from our website. We get slightly better terms if you order directly from us in the United States, but particularly internationally, if you can choose us on bookshop.org, if you have access to bookshop.org and you can choose us internationally, that's going to be your better bet. And the thing to know about bookshop.org is that also sometimes they have really great sales, particularly they offer free shipping from time to time, and they have the scale to be able to do that. They are a B corporation, which is a beneficial corporation, and 30% of every sale on bookshop.org goes to the bookstore of your choice. So if you designate us as the bookstore that you're supporting, 30% of that sale goes to us. And then every 6 months, they have a pool of about 10% of the rest of the earnings from that year that goes to everyone in the pool, broken out by how many locations you have. And it's an equal share of that pool. So what's really nice is that about, of that roughly 3%, about 1.89 percentage points of that 3% comes from bookshop.org. Another slightly less than 1% comes from Libro.fm, and then 0.06% comes from social media income. We are monetized on Facebook and Instagram. I just got our first, maybe second Instagram payout that was a total of $5 for the course of 6 months, maybe 9 months. I'm not really quite sure, but it was stunning the amount that we got. And on Facebook, we probably make anywhere from $12 to $15 a month. Obviously isn't a whole lot, but we do hope that eventually it will grow. Another person that I know who has gotten monetized on Facebook, for their organization, they make about $500 a month. Now, $500 a month is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but every little bit adds together. So as we build these things, we're almost monetized here on YouTube as well. I think about 850 followers right now on YouTube, and we are closing in. We're not quite to 3,000 views, and you have to have 4,000 views to be fully monetized on YouTube. So we don't expect that to be a whole lot of our income, but as I said, every little bit helps. And right now, most of that 3% is coming from bookshop.org, and 3% isn't a lot of income, but hey, it's 3% that we didn't have before. The rest of that 14%, about just over 5%, is income from our website. Most of that is book sales, but those are accounted for separately from our 82% of in-store sales because they're on our website. What that means in the grand scheme of things is that it's worth it for us to have an updated website, not only to point people to the store itself, but to make it convenient for our customers, whether they're local or a little bit further away, to be able to order from us any book that is available in print. The most important thing that that website does is that it makes it possible for somebody who would really love a book but knows that we don't have it in stock, can look up that book, order it online, we order it in for them, and the next time they're in the store, they can just conveniently pick it up, maybe go browsing in the store, maybe not. It depends on their needs. I would estimate that probably 70 to 80% of our website traffic comes from locals who are ordering books that they're super interested in and we might not have them on the shelf. Or we might have it on the shelf, but they want to make sure that they're reserving it so that it'll be there in the store when they next are able to come in. So that's very important for us. And I would love for that 5% to become 10%. I actually estimated that it was about 10%, but that was before I accounted for affiliate income and everything else that we're talking about. Also, the next thing that we're talking about is that this year, about 3.5% of our big overall pie of income was a grant. We got the NHE3 grant from the New Haven Greater Community Foundation, I think is the name of the organization. And that is $6,000 that we were able to use for computer equipment for our staff, and I am in the middle of using the rest of it for podcast equipment, like replacing this mic because the connection on that is a little bit loose and I am not happy with the sound quality, and getting a little bit more professional level equipment for us. And I'd like to use a little bit of the grant for us to be able to pay for professional editing. If you've been watching us for a while, you know our editing isn't the smoothest, and that's because I am figuring out the editing on my own. And I would love for a professional editor to show us what it could really look like. So 3.5% this year is a grant. Next year, we may or may not get another grant. I'm going to be applying for a few. We'll see how it goes. If you are a woman in Connecticut and you run a business, the WBDC, the Women's Business Development Council, which I've talked to you guys about before in other videos, has a grant program. It steps up from $2,500 for new businesses to $10,000 for experienced businesses. You have to have been in business for at least 2 years and be making at least $25,000 a year. And then the next one is a $25,000 grant. And I am aiming at that $10,000 grant next year, but I'm working on what the right project will be for that. So, you know, maybe a little slice of the pie next year will also be a grant, fingers crossed, knock on wood, etc., etc. That income goes immediately out the door to create projects like computers for our staff that will hopefully help us to become more profitable in the future and to grow our business. Next up, about 2%, really closer to 1.5% of our revenue this year has been our membership, which, like I said, we are running a membership campaign right now. If you're interested, I've linked it below, or you can go to our website, curiouscatbookshop.com, and there will be a little pop-up if you're watching this in December of 2025 that will link you directly to our membership campaign. That is a way for people who love us to give us a little bit of stability so that we're here for the long run. And it comes with membership perks, like you'll get a tote bag as a welcome gift. If you sign up during the campaign, you'll get a free Curious Cat Bookshop t-shirt. It's our new design. It's adorable. It is art by Sheila Smallwood. It's a cat wearing glasses, reading a book, and wondering why you've interrupted him while he's in the middle of his book. So take a look at that. But 1.5%, I'm rounding up to 2%, has been from that membership this year. And then the last couple of bits of our little tiny slice of the pie here, about 0.5% have come from events. And by that, I mean ticket sales for events. And the reason why it's only 0.5% is because we've just started our ticketed events program this fall. So that was, for example, our Sarah Beth Durst event this fall. That was wonderful. And we'd like to do more of them in 2026. We're working on that and more on that to come. And the other 0.5% comes from my editorial services. And that's also something that I've just started this fall because after losing my job at the end of September, I have to make a little bit of extra income to be able to pay for my life and, you know, food and electricity and things like that. So I have been doing online writing workshops. If you or someone you know is interested in that, I will be announcing more writing workshops for January very soon. And I also offer book coaching and developmental editing. If you're at a state in your publication journey where you have gone through the full revision process as a writer, you've gone through beta readers, you've gone through writing groups, and you're still getting rejections and you don't quite know how to diagnose what's wrong with your book, I am an expert at especially children's, not picture books, but middle grade and YA novels, graphic novels, and nonfiction. So if you would like to get in touch about that, I have linked my editorial services below as well. So each of those events and editorial services are about 0.5% for this year, but both of them we plan on expanding in the new year. So that's how it breaks down for in-store sales and total income streams. And I just want to re-emphasize that income streams is not the same as profit. We are in the middle of growing our income streams, but I also, as a business owner, have to keep an eye on our costs. I have to keep an eye on how all of it balances payroll and utilities and rent. All of those other things contribute to whether or not we can be profitable. This year, I highly doubt we're going to end up in profitability. I'm really hoping that December helps us at least come a little bit closer to profitability than last year. But the reality of running a relatively new business is that you generally don't expect to break even until you hit year 3 to 5. We are in the middle of year 3. Next year will be our third full year. When I say year 3, I'm counting September to the end of August of every year. But when I'm talking about full years, I'm talking January to December, because that's our tax year, that's our fiscal year. So next year, 2026, will be our third full year in fiscal years that we'll have been in business. And what I'm looking for in year 3 is for us to really evaluate what's truly working, what is making us the most money, and is it actually making us only the most revenue, or is it profitable as well? And for the first couple of years, it's not quite spaghetti at the wall, because I really do feel like everything we've been doing up to this point has been investment in our community, letting people know that we exist, inviting them in. Year 3 has to be, let's look at our numbers and make sure that we are going in the right direction to really become sustainable. And part of that, like I said, is our membership drive. Our goal is to hit $2,500 a month just as a baseline, and whether that means that's in a book club, so $2,500 a month, there is the cost of the book, or whether that is just in a membership where we're offering perks like discounts and tote bags and that kind of thing. What we're hoping to do through that membership is to create a baseline so that I can start looking at things like, can I pay my employees a more livable wage? Can I pay myself a livable wage? Can I start offering benefits to my employees beyond the required things like Connecticut requires 5 days of sick leave, and Connecticut has the ability for us to create IRAs through Connecticut Saves, which is a wonderful program. $2,500, when you're talking about the overall monthly income of a solid business of our size, is a relatively small percentage. But that kind of guaranteed income baseline in an industry where, like I said, the baseline profit margin of the most profitable bookstore, the profit margin that you're generally aiming at is a 5% profit margin in the black. We're in the red this year. Every little bit that we contribute to this top line revenue makes it more possible for us to go from red to black. Like I said, I hope December helps make a difference for us, both in the store and online. But we have to have a plan going into 2026 that not only depends on our local community, which, as I said, has been hit pretty hard by a lot of the economic conditions of the recent year, but also reaches out to a broader community so that we can become more sustainable for the long run. I have a lot of hope. Knowing your numbers, if you are a business owner of any kind, but particularly as a bookstore, knowing how the breakdown works is so important. If you want to know more about this and you're serious about starting a bookstore, the best thing you can do if you are living in the US is become a member of the American Booksellers Association, because they have a tool called the Abacus, which is a survey of all bookstores that participate in the United States. I'm not really quite sure how many, but it's quite a large number, and they get enough where they can anonymize the data and break it down so if you have a bookstore, you can see how you measure up against other bookstores as far as profitability and how much you're spending on payroll, how much you're spending on rent, how much you're spending on cost of goods sold, and so forth, how much you're making per square foot in your store, etc. If you are just starting out and you don't yet have a bookstore, it's even more important to come to understand how the abacus works. It was really hard to wrap my mind around it when I was first working on my business plan, I have to admit. I had no idea how to be like, this percentage of how much I'm making in the store is supposed to be going toward this thing. How am I supposed to know how that breaks down? It was really confusing at first, but it was really, once I started getting into it and I started thinking about my numbers more concretely, because I'm spending actual money and not just playing with them in an Excel sheet, that abacus, oh, that made all the difference. So I will also link that below in the show notes. So I hope this was helpful and enlightening. And if you have any questions or you have suggestions for topics for us to discuss in the new year, please let me know below in the comments. Thank you. See you next year.